Welcome to the Chasing Green Show. Tonight, guys, I got an awesome guest, Matt from Prairie Sportsman. He's an awesome fellow YouTuber, makes great videos. And as usual, we're just going to jump right into it. Tonight, we're going to be talking about how to find new places to hunt because I know it's a struggle for every duck hunter. So, Matt, start us out by just talking about your process for how you're like me, you hunt private and public, but a lot of public, and just talk about your process for how you find places to hunt.
Yeah, so I guess starting out with I go on online, whether it be like Onyx or Bing Maps, Google Maps, whatever, and then cross reference those. So like in Nebraska, we have an online public access atlas. I use that a ton, and I'm looking for wetlands, things that big water, rivers, creeks, whatever. I'm looking for basically any kind of water source is what I'm focusing on. And then even to a lesser extent, like fields in that vicinity. But, that's so hit and miss when you're trying to hunt feeds, uh, especially on public. There's not really a lot of public cropland in Nebraska here. So, but no, I'm looking online first, and then you just got to put boots on the ground, and all times of the year. Here in Nebraska, a lot of our wetlands are very dependent on rainfall, and we've been lacking in that department for the last few years. So there's some that are bone dry, and just 3-4 years ago, they were the fullest they've ever been for years. So that's a big part of it. Scouting in the summer, scouting in the fall, scouting, and in between the seasons as well. You're looking for cover, where you can hide successfully. You're looking for places you can hunt. If you don't have a boat or you don't have a kayak or you don't have anything to get out there, you're not going to be able to hunt those areas with deeper water or where deeper water precludes you from or prevents you from wading out. You're going to want to know that stuff too. So I'm looking for all that. And then I'm also looking for, in Nebraska, we have predominant wind in the wintertime, about like a northwest wind, especially when cold fronts move in. So I like to hunt with the wind at my back. So if I can find a spot that's kind of sheltered, especially when there's like snow and those high wind days, when a cold front's coming through or right after, I'm looking for areas that have a high, looking for areas that are sheltered. And then, just looking for birds and sign. That's a huge one. They can use it in the summer. They might use it midday. They might use it in the morning. They might not. It's not going to be consistent. You gotta pattern those birds. Basically, is it a loaf pond? Is it a roost? Is it, there's so many different aspects you can go into, and that's all part of the fun of it.
Yeah. So basically, it sounds like your process is very similar to mine, which is you basically figure out all the areas that you have access to, all the public areas, and then you go start looking at them. And then you're either looking for ducks at that moment or you're looking for something that may lead to ducks later, like food or something like that.
Yep. And that's a good point too. So like now, for instance, you could go out, look at wetlands. They have water. Is there smartweed out there? If you want to hunt teal, smartweed's a good place to start. You find that smartweed blooming, you're probably going to have some teal in there. And if there's teal feathers and teal tracks or just duck tracks in general, probably go check that out before teal season opens.
Yeah. So smartweeds is one of the more predominant moist soil you kill stuff on or have successful hunts on.
Especially for teal, later in the year when like the big ducks show up, some will use it still, but after the freeze, you don't see it as much. Like it's still there, but it's a little harder to find if you don't know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But other things that birds are going to feed on to, um, like flooded flooded crop fields, if you can find those we all know how good those are. But
Yeah, oh, they're destroying duck hunting. but but no, so I take it up there where you're at after the cold weather sets in. It probably converts mostly to hunting either crop feeds or getting on open water.
yeah. So you can bust down, like if that's still in their flight line, then you can do good on that. If it's not, you're probably just gonna be looking at empty skies. Maybe you'll get lucky and have a few give you a look, but basically you want to find the roost, find the feed, and then hunt either in between that or hunt the feed or hunt. I wouldn't recommend hunting the roost, but hunt somewhere up or down from it.
Yeah.
Give it a pretty good berth. But yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot with this one, but what's the number one mistake that you see your audience? I know our audience a lot of times will ask us questions, they'll comment on stuff. What's the number one mistake you see your audience or people making when finding new places to hunt? Why are they coming up short sometimes?
I think I'd probably say hide. Hide goes a big part into it. And even if you don't have the best hide, like I'll take time. If there's not birds flying, I'll keep brushing up my blind, or I'll try to find a better spot. And granted, you can kill birds with a less than ideal hide. It all depends on the conditions. But
Sure.
I've seen people, hunt in public. They just stick out. There's one guy I remember clear as day. It was probably 6-7 years ago now. They took out a white fishing boat and threw a camo net over it and sat in front of cattails.
Oh, wow.
I don't think they shot at some. I don't think they ever got any, because I don't think those ones came close enough to actually be hit. So
Yeah.
hide's a big limiting factor.
Yeah, that was to be honest, that was a weakness for me, because in Arkansas, you never worried about the hide. We hunt in trees, like you just stand by a tree. I start coming to the Midwest, and it's like there's literally nothing out here,
Yeah.
So we had to really change our hide game once we started hunting these marshes and open areas. So, back on the subject of finding new places to hunt, whether they be public or private, how big of a deal is Onyx for you? Is that one of your big tools?
I wouldn't say it's my biggest, but it is a very helpful tool. It's really handy just to pull up on my phone, and I can get all the ortho imagery and where the public stuff is, and dropping the pins is probably the best part. Like, so start here, and then this is this path you walk. You do that tracking feature and stuff. That's all really handy. Otherwise, it's trying to memorize your paths into different places, and you can I have ended up lost at 3 a.m. in the middle of a marsh. So
Sure. So the biggest resource you use is the state information.
Yeah. Our public land access atlas. That's a mouthful, but yeah, that's a really invaluable resource here in Nebraska, and I think other states have them as well. I just I haven't hunted as many other states to know that yet. So.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the same process we use as well. You take all in state information you can get. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's little, but it's usually at least something valuable. And then Onyx, you pair them two together, and you will find a place to hunt if you.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to ask you about what do you do typically if you don't have any leads? What's your go-to move? Like for a guy who he only gets to hunt on Saturday, he ain't got to scout, he has no leads of what to do. What's your go-to move on a situation like that? Which is not ideal, but
honestly, probably your best thing is either you take that day off and you scout, or you can do a scout hunt. You go out, you take a handful of decoys. If you've got to have a place at least in mind, and you can go online and find somewhere that you think, okay, maybe it looks good online, and you get out there and it's not. But if you're crunched for time, you don't have time to scout, probably a scout hunt, or just take off the day, and that'd probably be the best advice. Or try to talk to locals in the group, or locals around the area, or make some buddies, make a group.
And that's another big thing that I always talk about, networking. I mean, that's huge in duck hunting. I've killed so many ducks from the help of somebody else, just time and time again. Like either, hey, we were on this spot, now we can't hunt anymore, or you want to come with us. It's so helpful to have multiple people to bounce information back off of. Okay. I see when I watch your videos, I see that you're really good at getting away from pressure. You got any tips for that? How do you avoid the pressure?
Put on the miles, drive a long ways, walk a long ways, kayak a long ways, get in places where boats can't get. Work for them basically is the best. And the further away you can get from population centers, that's another plus too. But honestly, the only way you're really getting away from pressure is to hunt days where there's less people. So weekdays, maybe afternoons, and then just walk walk way out in the marsh, walk wherever, drive miles and miles away from people. And don't be afraid to have, plan A, B, C, D, E, whatever. There's been times I'll go to a spot, someone's there, I'll drive, over an hour to another spot just so I don't have to compete against people. So if you have those options, that would be my advice.
Yeah, and that's pretty much word for word what I would say. I mean, same things that I do. If you have a spot that you know is full of ducks, tons of ducks on it, but you also know it's going to have tons of hunters the next morning, what are you going to do? Are you going to go there? Or are you going to go to the off the beaten trail, less ducks, but you're probably going to have it by yourself?
Whew. So that's a really good question. Personally, I would prefer to go off the beaten trail, maybe try something new, try something different. Um, if I'm out of other options, or I think that's my best option where it's heavily pressured, I'm gonna be the first one there. I'm gonna beat everyone else out there if I can. There's some there's some of us that are like super crazy and they'll sleep out in their trucks all night and all that good stuff. But if possible, be the first one there, get the best spot that you think, and you know try that way if you have to hunt highly pressured areas.
Yeah, yeah, same for me. We kind of we kind of always take it by case basis. If there's something there that I feel very confident about, like if we do this, if we get this or do this, we've got it, then we'll hunt a spot like that. If something gives us an edge, but typically we try to avoid just playing the rat race, and it just it's too many variables and too many things that can mess you up that you don't have control over. And I typically don't like that. One thing we do a lot is we hunt in bigger groups and we run traffic, lots of callers, big spreads. And I noticed you hunt by yourself a lot. Do you have much success running traffic, or are you pretty much I have to get on the X, because you're limited in what's your equipment?
No, I've run traffic before, by myself. More, I guess it's for ducks and geese. For geese, I want a lot of people, especially because we're usually running traffic on fields. On water, it's not as big a deal for like ducks. So running traffic on ducks, you still can be generally successful in my area, but for geese, you're probably going to want a lot of hands to throw out decoys and help set up.
Yeah. Yeah, so the big part for us is the calling aspect. If you got 5 or 6 people calling, it's the pulling power of it's amazing compared to just one guy. But you do pretty good running traffic on ducks in your area. One guy can get it done. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, and see, I don't really call a lot here. I know some areas of the country, you need that calling, you need to call more. In this area, you really don't need to call as much. Soft whistles, just quacks, kind of get them interested, call in the corners if they're not. It can definitely help more on some days, but generally, if I think a lot of people would be better off if they just kind of put the call away and stopped highballing every other minute at them.
Yeah.
So, I hear that a lot on public, and the birds get wise to that super quick.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Calling was definitely one of the things that got me hooked on duck hunting. So I'm one of them guys. It's hard to put it down, even when I should, just because I would way rather kill one or land one that I called in, because that's what drew me to the sport. But you're spot on. There's some days where the call is just it's going to do way more harm than good for sure, especially later in the season. Um, Before we start taking viewer questions, I kind of want to transition and talk to you just for a second about you kind of become the face of the sub gauge revolution on YouTube. So, I'm not that guy. I'm completely opposite. Like I want firepower, buddy. Not, but I'm like you in the aspect I want to land them at 10 yards. But there's just some days they're not going to do right, and you may shoot one getting out further than you would like. But
Yeah.
what got you started on the whole sub gauge thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, years and years ago, I was out hunting with. We have a family trip. I always go out with my dad and my cousin. They got some family friends, and one of the guys that uh, I talked to, he was telling me back in the day, there'd be mallards just coming in during like snowstorms and stuff, and he'd take out his 28 gauge, and I was 10, 11 at the time. And I was just like, I'm like, because I never even heard of a 28 gauge at that point. I'm like, that's so cool. Like just this little shotgun and just dumping mallards. Like that's sweet. And so that's just stuck with me throughout the years. And then once I finally found my first one and purchased it, that TriStar, and then I upgraded to a Benelli last year. But it's like an addiction now. They're just so much fun to shoot. I don't know. There's something about it.
So it's like almost like a nostalgic thing for you. It started in your childhood, and it was just something that.
Yeah, that's where the seeds were planted, and then it really fits my hunting style. I'll say this again, but if you're not landing birds close, or you're not working birds close, don't use a sub gauge. Like it's for decoying birds. You're not gonna pass. I mean, you could pass shoot them at 35, 40. I don't recommend that. That's you don't want to do that. It's for close up shots, decoying shots. So it's not for everyone, and some people are. I've heard a lot of criticism about it before, and it's a really fascinating discussion. But
Criticism, like what do you mean?
It's some people claim it's unethical to use a 28 gauge because it's less pellets, stuff like that.
Well, people are out there nowadays. Like I watch your videos, you rarely lose one. I mean,
yeah,
definitely probably less than the average guy. I mean,
yeah, this past year I lost 4 birds, 2 with a 12 gauge, 2 with my 28 gauge, and one was because it fell in like some icy stuff I couldn't wait in. So the bird was dead, but yeah.
I'm really surprised that you get criticism over that. I wouldn't expect that. So with the 28 gauge, what's your I'm sure you've kind of narrowed down the best setup for it. What's your current setup, like shells and choke and all that?
Yeah, so for ducks, I usually like a modified choke just in case, they get out there a little farther. But I'm running bismuth, Boss. Usually Boss 5s are my favorite right now. 2 3/4 inch. I did purchase some 3-inch this year to try out, and there's only a handful of 28 gauges that'll shoot 3-inch. But I'm really curious as to how those are gonna do. I'm sure a little less holes in the pattern, but yeah, bismuth modified, and then for if there's geese, I'm gonna switch to 4-shot and full choke.
2 3/4 number 5 28 gauge. Boy, times have changed. That's wow.
Oh yeah,
my dad's in like that era, they would have laughed at that. But the technology's come a long ways, man. Shells are just way better than they used to be. So I'm totally on board for it. Now, I see that in your videos you hunt by yourself a lot. Why is that? Why do you prefer to be a solo hunter?
It's a lot easier to hide one person. It's a lot easier to, I can set up where I want. It's a lot easier for me to just like shoot and swing and all that good stuff. There's a lot more, I guess, freedom to it, and it really is it's just a whole different experience. Now, don't get me wrong. I've got some really good buddies I do like hunting with, and my family as well. Those are really special hunts too, where you're cracking jokes and you just have a good time with buddies. But I don't know, those soul hunts, there's just something super relaxing about it, where you're not pressured, you're not feeling the rush. Like, okay, I gotta beat my buddy up here to hunt, or who's shooting what bird. I don't know. It's a whole different experience.
Sure, I hear people talk about that sometimes, like they feel rushed, because on Arkansas we'll hunt 9 deep, 10 deep. The key is to let them shoot first, and when they stand the birds up, you shoot second. You'll be successful every time. But yeah, the next thing I gotta ask you about, and I commented on one of your things the other day with the mind blowing emoji. What's up with the teal over the mallards for your favorite bird?
Oh man, green wings. Yeah, I love them. I love mallards. Don't get me wrong, but there's just something about those green wings. They're very delicious.
They are great.
You
the best.
You can shoot 6 of them, and they just decoy. They're easy to call. You just do a little peep, and they just come right in. They're just such a cool little bird.
They are, man. I'll give you that. They're a great bird. They're probably number 3 on my list, and because they are so great to eat. They fly in big flocks, and they're fun. They're real callable, like you said. So, but like me, you do target mallards a lot, and you're pretty successful on them. So I got to give you props there. I mean, it makes me want to travel to your area because it's mostly mallards. It seems like. I seen a good question earlier. We were talking about the freeze. I'll throw it up on the screen there. What's your opinion on that, Matt?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. I'd say it honestly depends on what your weather situation looks like. I'm guessing with the midday thaw, it's gonna be like a sunny day. Uh, I'd have to know, wind direction and wind speed is gonna be a big one on that for me. If it looks like it's gonna be a mostly calm bluebird day, I want to be out there first light. Just because they're going to be flying. They're not going to be that first half hour before sunrise. They're not going to be as apt to pick you out, especially without any wind. In the afternoon without any wind, it's just a calm, sunny day. We've hunted those days. It's a pain to get birds in, especially
Yeah,
late season. So I'd probably go first light on a day like that.
sure. Yeah, for me, it kind of, like you said, depends on the situation. I mean, if you're on a situation where it's thawing and they're coming to food, I'd rather be there on the thaw because it's going to be hot and heavy when they do decide to start coming. But if you're like busting an ice hole and just hoping for the best, we usually just hunt all day. We'll get there and just hunt till as long as it takes
Yeah.
um, for us. He asked another question. What about after the freeze up? I'm taking that means like after complete thaw. It's warmed back up now for the next few days.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it can be tough if if in your area if everything freezes up. Basically, you want to find where the birds are. Make sure you have birds in your area because there's some areas as soon as it freezes up, the sandhills, for instance, once that freezes up, those birds are gone. Even if it thaws out, there's I don't even know if there's any that would move back up that way. So, you know, um, that's a big thing is making sure you still have birds in the area. If you do, if you have some moving water or some big water that might freeze up later, or the birds can keep open, then you might be in luck. You might be able to bust ice holes, or I'd be looking for feeds. I'd be looking for places where they're going to feed. Go scout early, mid morning, and then afternoon when they're the most likely times that they're feeding.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. That when it's freezing and thawing out like consistently and everything's changing, that can either be really good or really bad. Like you're either gonna knock it out of the park typically, or it's just can be really difficult to hunt those conditions. It's just so much change going on. It's hard to pattern them. This guy asked about your 20 gauge.
Yeah, I actually just sent that in to Winchester last week. So called them, kind of explained the situation. The year that my 20 gauge was built, that it's not an uncommon issue. Something with the barrel light, from what I understand,
What was the issue?
it just shoots high.
Like real
Um,
high or
yeah, like I would shoot at the bird and it would go way above the bird. So hopefully they'll get that fixed. They're supposed to, pattern it and get it all taken care of, but I'm still waiting to get that back. But yeah, that's the news on that. So hopefully you'll be able to run it this year.
how did you figure that out? Sheet paper
A little bit, a little bit patterning, and then also the shot cam.
or
You
okay,
could just tell.
gotcha. I
Yep.
guess I hadn't used a shot cam, but it would be awesome for just seeing,
Oh yeah.
learning about your shot.
Yep.
Where's the flyway this year? Flyway collective this year.
We are still figuring that out. Last year, we had one of the guys had a medical issue, so that kind of put the kibosh on that. This year, we're still working on where we want to go. We will have for sure though a couple smaller meetups if we don't do one big one this year. But honestly, I don't know yet.
How about that?
Eastern Nebraska has had a good amount of rain. I think, unfortunately, it was a little too late for the nesting. Now there might be some like secondary nesting possible, mainly Canada geese, if I had to guess. The sandhills, it's just hit and miss thunderstorms. So, I mean, there's always some water in the sandhills. Obviously, more water is better for nesting, but I'm not 100% sure on how much water they've had. Obviously, I mean, we want more. We need a lot more, but there's other areas of the state that are just bone dry. So the whole state needs water as a whole.
I didn't know you
Generally,
guys had much nesting going on. Do many ducks nest there?
the Sandhills has a ton of nesting going on. I mean, we get I mean, pretty much everything. There's canvasbacks, redheads,
Really?
teal, mallards.
So
Yeah,
that's like the southern tip of the nesting range then.
yeah, yep,
Sweet. I didn't know that.
yep.
Cool, man. Yeah, well, at least it's good news that it looks like the Dakotas and Manitoba and parts of even Saskatchewan have gotten more than it was last year as far as rain. So the, the water levels are definitely looking better there. So hopefully the hatch will be good this year.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, which it was to me. I mean, everybody was complaining about the populations last year, but it was one of my best years ever. Just duck numbers were insane. But there's a lot of variables to that. What's up, Rainbow Land Leveling? My day is going a lot better now than I'm in the air conditioner. So thanks for asking. He asked about Boss.
Yeah, I love them. Honestly, I probably want to use my 28 gauge as much without them. They do the knockdown power just in bismuth compared to steel is amazing. And I know some people scoff at that, but I mean, it's denser. It's basic science and just firsthand experience. There's birds that I would have lost if I was shooting steel. I mean, you can't convince me otherwise. That I've seen, the bismuth just knocks them down.
Yeah. Do you think it's as big of a deal on the 12 gauge?
Oh, honestly, I think it's. I mean, it definitely helps, especially for like geese. Um, with the bismuth, the main advantage is so like they say it's two shot sizes. How's that go? Two shot sizes. So basically, like fives are equal to steel threes. So you can get a few more BBs like or a few more pellets like in your 12 gauge. So you
Yeah.
can get a better pattern with it. Although bismuth is known to have more flyers as well. So, there's trade-offs, but if it hits that bird, it's not going to bounce off where
Yeah.
like your lower velocity still might.
Gotcha. Yeah. I thought about switching the Boss, but I shoot a 12 gauge, typically 3-inch number twos with a pattern master choke. And I mean, I shoot them 40, 45, even up to 50 if I have to. I don't like to. That's usually birds that have like been hit and they're like struggling to get out. I'll go ahead and shoot at them because they've already, I'd rather kill them than they fly off crippled.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see myself. We don't lose many birds. I couldn't see myself justifying the cost for me personally on the 12 gauge. Now, if I shot 20 or 28 like you, I think I definitely would. They've been an absolute game changer for the sub gauge. I mean, there's just
Oh
no
yeah.
other way to put it. I mean,
And,
they made, like you said, they made it a legitimate contender to use, or a decent option now.
yep.
Does the Boss like shatter in the breast?
I've found some, but it's a lot better than it used to be from all accounts. What I understand, I know when bismuth loads first came out, that was a big complaint, is because it's not pure bismuth. You're not shooting pure bismuth at them. It's like an alloy, or it's a mix.
Yeah,
Um, but I think they've upped the bismuth content from what I understand. And granted, I'm not not a big ballistics expert or anything like that, but uh, I guess back in the day when bismuth first came on the scene, it would just shatter. Now it'll actually penetrate. And I have seen a few boss shells, split on me, but for the most part, they hold their shape.
cool. Yeah, I was just that really turned me off on the eating side of things because I was talking to people who were like finding shards all in the breast, and I was like, yeah, I'm good on that. But most people have said that they've mainly fixed it. Here's one about you and Jordan.
Okay. Let's see. What's the challenge? I keep trying to push this 30K race, and he is thrown in the towel.
He's
He's
conceded.
done. He's done with the challenges now. So maybe if he goes on a surge and gets back up closer to me, we'll do another challenge. But for right now, he's sitting him out for the future.
Sweet. My buddy Craig here, he says, talking about the equivalent between steel and bismuth, just on the ounce loads. So, yeah, you're getting about 10 more pellets in a number 5 than you would in number 2.
Yep. So that's
Let me catch up on some of these. They're coming in.
coming in too fast.
Chris asked, have you found a landowner on the elk deal yet?
Oh my gosh. No, there's everyone and their cousin is like messaging everyone across the state. So if you haven't heard, Nebraska has a special depredation elk tag. $20. You buy an elk tag, you can literally shoot any elk you see in this one area for the whole month of July. And social media is blowing up about it. It's just because there's crop damage in a few areas. There's not a ton of elk, and who wants to really hunt an elk in 100-degree weather? So no, I haven't found a landowner. I was kind of just joking around, pushing some buttons, having some fun. But I would be surprised if more than 10 elk honestly got shot in that area after this is all said and done.
That's crazy. Do you guys have many elk just in the state in general? I didn't know that you did.
Yeah, Nebraska actually has some like trophy elk being shot almost yearly now.
Wow.
They're corn fed, so
in the Northwest mainly, or just the whole state?
Yeah, in the Northwest, you'll see them across the state, not very commonly, but more western Nebraska, South Central, and the Panhandle. There's quite a few.
Gotcha. How about you looking to add any new gear this year?
Yeah, I actually got a new gun. It's getting shipped to me right now, so I'm looking forward to getting that from the dealer. And I don't know, I've got some other stuff coming too. I'm probably gonna get some more goose floaters and some new silhouettes, and probably some snow goose decoys too. I'm getting more and more into that snow goose game. That stuff's addicting.
What's the new gun?
Super Black Eagle 3 28 gauge.
Okay. Heck yeah.
So, yep.
Sweet.
Yep.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool, man. Yeah, I need an A-frame and layouts. That's the main thing I need, and I'd like to get a big honker spread, but that may or may not happen. It's just everything's through the roof right now, man.
Oh yeah, that's
Decoys are insane right now. Just little more than I want to pay for a lot of them.
No kidding.
Peter asked about Cali.
Yeah, I'd be down. I want to get a cinnamon tail, nice drake pintail, shoveler. I'd basically go there it'd be an expensive trip back because I'd want to take a lot of birds back to the taxidermist. A nice blue wing, probably a speckle belly while I'm there. So,
do you guys not get many pintail and shovelers?
We get shovelers early. We get quite a few shovelers come through early. They're not plumed out, unfortunately. Pintail, you might see one late season mixed in with mallards. And last year, actually, it was like January, and I had a nice one, and I missed him 3 times. So if the reverse is going on, if the reverse comes back early, you can sometimes get into some decent groups of pintails, but it's fairly rare.
Yeah, Cali's actually a really good state. I mean, I think they're second on mallards like every year in total harvest. I would be interested in going there, even though it's just like not the greatest state for other things. But I hear there are a lot of really good people there, and the hunting's really good. So I wouldn't mind trying it. That's for sure. But it would be a long haul for me. So
yeah,
it would probably be later and down the road. There's a few places in the Pacific Flyway I want to try. I really want to go to Washington. I mean, it's just incredible from everything I've seen.
Yeah, I need a Eurasian widgeon too, so throw another on the list.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a stacked list. Where all have you been so far?
I've only been to 3 different states. I've hunted all across the state of Nebraska. Kansas. I've hunted quite a few areas across Kansas, and then
Kansas sucks.
yeah, no, well, it's better than Nebraska though. No one, Nebraska sucks. Go to Kansas.
Indiana is where you want to be.
Indiana is the best place to be, but no, Wyoming's the other one, and that was cool. I hunted some geese below mountains. That was just really cool.
Yeah, Wyoming looked beautiful from what I've seen in your videos and others. Tyler here, he wants to know about a budget 20 gauge, semi-auto 20 gauge.
Ooh, my 20 gauge. So the SX4 was just a little when I bought it. I don't know what there are now. That was 2 years ago now. I don't know what. I think it was like 900 probably. So that'd be a little out of its price range. My other one's a Remington 870 pump, and I love that gun. I mean, it's almost 20 years old now, and it doesn't miss a beat. So
Man, those 870s, they are just tanks, man.
built to last.
They were the way to go on the budget. Which I heard that they went bankrupt and then they changed hands. I think they're building them again, but
I've heard the new ones aren't as good. I haven't tried a new one, so I don't know.
Craig says the TriStar Viper G220.
Yeah, want to be a
What
back.
was
I mean,
your-
that was what my 28 gauge was, a TriStar Viper G2. But I've heard most of the issues they have are with the 28 gauges, not the 20. I've never tried the 20, so I can't personally attest to that.
What was your experience with yours?
It would jam up every now and then. There was like a burr on the inside that would cut the shell, like just put a cut into the shell. I want to like cut it open or anything, but it just wanted to eject all the shells. So sometimes I'd shoot once, sometimes I'd be able to get all 3 off. You just never knew. So
Yeah,
kind of got in my head after a while.
man, I had the same well, not the same problem, but the same problem of getting in my head. I had a Beretta A400 12 gauge or A300 12 gauge, their budget model, and it was great the first year, but year 2 and 3, it just basically fell apart. I mean, it would hang up 60% of the time, I'd say, and it gets in your head, man. Like you can't shoot with a gun like that because you're worried about if you're going to have to eject it or
Yeah.
it just my shooting percentage went up dramatically when I got a new gun. Which my fit was better on this new gun as well, but just I'll never get another Beretta. Let me put it that way. Nothing against Beretta fans. I've shot them my whole life, but that one just turned me off. If you guys got any more questions, just shoot them towards us. Anything at all. So we've talked about new gear. Do you have any new states this year that you're going to try to hit?
Yeah. Plan right now is to hunt North Dakota early goose season here. I'm not sure what weekend yet, but I want to get up there. It opens August 15th, so looking forward to that. I'm gonna apply for a Utah Swan tag.
Sweet.
Now, yeah, they say sometimes you can draw in the first year. Usually by the second year, it's a sure thing. So, kind of hoping I don't draw this year because I don't want to really spend the gas money to go out to Utah.
Yeah.
So, but I might go to Utah too this year, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's like the green wing capital of the world, so you ought to have a blast out there.
Yeah, even better.
So that's your only two that you got planned so far?
I mean, probably trip out to Wyoming once or twice, and then Kansas again. I don't know. I'd love to hit South Dakota, but you gotta, for non-resident, you gotta draw, so it makes that a lot harder.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do South Dakota for a long time. It's just their rules are freaking crazy.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to North Dakota too for the early goose. I was going to hook up with Thomas, but I don't know if the way prices are, if I should waste that money that I'm going to need in big duck season.
Yeah,
because that's a long haul for me. But I wanted to do North Dakota for sure. It's been on the bucket list for a long time. Montana, it's just Montana, man.
Oh yeah,
it's beautiful. But other than that, I really don't have any plans but the same states I typically hit. Hunting new states is awesome. It's one of my favorite aspects. It's just
Oh
great
yeah.
to explore.
Like, I'd love to go and hunt all these other states eventually sometime, and with fuel prices though and having a full-time job, it's a little
Yeah.
difficult.
If you ever want to come to Arkansas, man, you're more than welcome to come. The
That
timber
would
is truly special, man. If it goes down, it's some of the best hunting, that you can experience. I mean, hundreds of mallards at like 10 feet coming through the trees.
oh
It's
man.
crazy, but past few years it's been really hit or miss.
No, I definitely want to do that. I've never hunted ducks in true timber before, so like standing by the trees like you guys do, that would be awesome.
Yeah, well, maybe we can work something out at some point. This guy's asking about a Arkansas WMA. Yeah, it's definitely true. They're talking about changing it to making it 25 shell standard, but right now a lot of them you can only have 15 shells, which I don't really care either way. It's like if they're
How many
doing,
people actually follow that? Like how many are
yeah,
hiding shells in their wader belt or something?
yeah, I've seen and heard of it a lot of times. Which it's like if they want to stick it to you, which they typically don't, it's like $75 per shell over.
Oh, yeah, that
It can add up quick. How many states for me? Man, I don't even know. I guess technically three or four. Four. Yeah, not a ton for me. I would have never left Arkansas if it had, you know, hadn't changed so much. But as I was saying earlier, it is fun. Now that I've started traveling, I've really come to love it. I mean, it's great to go meet new people, and it really kind of makes you a better waterfowl hunter too. I mean, you learn so much by hunting stuff you're not used to. Um, Dream hybrid.
ooh. When Mallard Pintail hybrid's up there, I got a picture of one this past off season. I got a new lens and I was just filming, and then I see this mallard with a blue bill, and I'm like zoomed in on this thing. Oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. It's like, where was he, during the season? But
Yeah, yeah, that's my dream as well. And I guess my other dream crazy duck would be I seen this one guy, he shot it was floating around social media a lot, a completely solid green mallard. Like their green head, but his whole body was that.
oh dang.
It was I've never seen another one like it. It was insane. Um, so those two for me would be my top. Which my buddy Glenn shot like a second generation hybrid 2 years ago. His pintail mallard, and I mean, it was just enough you could see it. He had a blue bill. His curly cues were straight. His like neck area and wings looked like a pintail, but he was
Okay.
definitely a like one of his parents had to have been mixed, which they typically don't breed or not able to breed from what I've heard. So that's pretty rare. I was looking through the comments here. You got anything new planned for the channel this year, Matt?
Who? Well, I might do a antelope hunt this year if I draw that. I find that out in, let's see, about a week. I should find out. My dad and I've been putting in for like 5, 6, 7 years now. So hopefully this is the year we get lucky, do an antelope hunt, and other than that, ducks and geese. Uh,
Is that archery or rifle?
Rifle. I don't have time to and archery hunt.
I was about to say you're beast mode if you pull that off.
Yeah.
That's I've always wanted to chase antelope too, but hadn't got the chance to do it. Another thing I want to hit on with you while I got you is one aspect I love about your channel is you're always promoting, conservation, Ducks Unlimited, um, Delta Waterfowl, all the other ones. Why is that so important? Why should hunters be involved with those organizations?
I mean, it's based conservation is important. I mean, everyone says hunting is conservation. You see that on social media, you see it on, all over when people are trying to defend hunting to people that don't understand. being part of organizations like that, or Pheasants Forever, Whitetails Unlimited, National Wild Turkey Federation, so on and so forth, is just putting more money behind that. And the good those organizations do, just like DU and Delta, they're restoring habitat, they're acquiring new habitat, they're getting the youth involved, the next generation, all amazing things. And now maybe there's some things that people will nitpick here or there, but generally, the good they do outweighs any negatives, at least in my, from what I've, seen from them. So it's really important, because, basically, and as waterfowlers, we're one of the greatest examples of hunting being conservation, by going to Congress back in the 1930s and asking for them to implement a tax on ourselves. The federal duck stamp, the migratory bird stamp, was approached by waterfowlers, seeing the decrease in duck numbers back years ago because of market hunting and changes to all the wetlands being plowed under back then. We actually ask Congress to pass that and make sure that all the money, or I think it's like 98% or 98 cents of every dollar spent on the migratory bird stamp goes back towards conservation, for migratory birds, and it benefits other species as well. So it's important to know that, so you can defend your position as a hunter to anti-hunters or people who maybe are on the fence. And you want to be able to be factually accurate and say more than it's population control or something like that. So that, and representing those organizations as well is another good way to get involved.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I mean, the biggest thing we can do as hunters to actually help duck numbers is create habitat. I mean, more habitat directly contributes to higher populations. It's that simple.
Yep.
And DU and Delta are two of the best, and a lot of others too, are the best way, one of the best ways to do that. I mean, they are constantly spending millions upon millions, to get more habitat and create more places to hunt. Not just nesting habitat, but a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of the places in Arkansas, the public places, were contributed to by Ducks Unlimited. I mean, we wouldn't have them if they hadn't matched, the federal and state funds to build some of these places. So it's huge, and thankfully, I think most people get that. The past few years, Ducks Unlimited has caught a lot of blowback. They're really polarizing right now for some reason, but we definitely need more habitat for nesting, and we definitely need more public. I mean, we've got few hunters as ever, but public's more crowded than ever. I mean, everybody talks about we need to add to the sport, we need to grow the sport of hunting, but there's no place. Nobody wants these hunters. Like, all the states are trying to ban non-res right now.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, it's such a huge thing. I mean, it's a really bad time to be a new hunter coming into duck hunting, especially if you're coming from another state. Like, it's just brutal.
Yeah, and going off of that is you're bringing these new hunters in, and they're hunting public land. Maybe they have someone who knows how to hunt. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're figuring it out for themselves. But if you want to retain them as a hunter, you want everyone to have good experiences, or even keep the older generation involved in hunting. You want them to have good experiences. The number one goal should be more public land acquisition or more hunting opportunities. Now, how you get those, how you reach it, that's a whole nother can of worms that, we could go into that and talk about that for hours, I'm sure. But, we don't have, we can move on from that. But
it just really seems like there's almost this defeated mentality in the government systems for whatever reason, is that we got what we got, and then there's no way to get more. I've talked to multiple state officials from multiple states, asking why can't we do something? Because most duck hunters would be, I would gladly pay like a $50 optional stamp if every dollar of it was going to go to buy new public land. If you got 75% of duck hunters to get this optional stamp for even $100, however much you want to charge, they would buy it and fund some new land acquisition. But it just seems like there's no movement to do that at all. And more land's going to equal less pressure on the ducks. They're going to be able to spread out, and it's going to equal better hunting opportunities for the hunter, because I don't want to reduce pressure. I mean, because right now the only answer to reduce pressure is to limit hunters. That's everybody's go-to thing. We're going to limit your days. We're going to limit when you can hunt, and I just don't like that. I mean, it's not a good route.
Yeah. Yep.
So hopefully we'll get some brave individuals to stand up and get a movement started to fix this problem, because just about every state I hunt, there's this huge argument about pressure and out-of-staters, and even in the Midwest. And it's just, more and more people are traveling nowadays, and we just got to find a place to put everybody. Here's a non-controversial question.
Oh,
We love
okay.
all government agencies equally.
Yeah. That's a good question. In Nebraska, there's not a lot of federally managed land, I guess. There's a couple refuges, national wildlife refuge areas that are managed by them. And they're in pretty good shape as far as I'm concerned. But Game and Parks also plays a hand in that. At least from the fishery aspect. I'm not 100% sure on how they manage the land. They might work with, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service or something. A lot of the state and federal agencies kind of coexist on those properties, those federal properties. And then on the state-owned properties, the Game and Parks properties, it's more up to the state. But I've hunted great federal properties. I've hunted great state properties.
The WPAs are federal, aren't they?
The wildlife production areas are. I haven't hunted a ton of those, but yeah, those are federally managed. I'm not sure if they're federally pumped. I believe Game and Parks does that, but I could be way off on that too. So don't quote me on that. But yeah.
Yeah, Tyler, that's an interesting topic. Pretty deep thing, but from what I understand, that's maybe mostly an Atlantic flyway problem. The farm gene getting into the ducks, or really the ducks that they release there on the East Coast. Most of what they have are released mallards, and they have studied them, interbreeding with the native wild mallard, and they think that it could be having an effect on some migration patterns. But for most of the country, that's not an issue from what I've gathered. Well, Matt, you got anything you want to add tonight, man? You've been an awesome guest.
Yeah, no, this was fun. Had a blast doing it. Hopefully we can link up this upcoming season sometime. Either, up here or down there or in the middle somewhere. So
yeah, I've been wanting to for a while. We've talked about it before, but
that'd be fun.
Awesome. But, well, I definitely appreciate you coming on, man, and maybe we can do it again sometime.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Check out Matt's channel if you hadn't already. High Prairie Sportsman. It's awesome. He makes really good thumbnails. Can't miss it. We'll catch you guys later.
See ya.